What's up, everybody? It's MrmoviesXkicks, and this is going to be the review of Ghost of Tsushima coming up right after this. Now, as you guys know, I did a semi quote unboxing for this, and I said once I got done with it, I would kind of do a review on it. And it's been almost 2 weeks, but I didn't think it would take this long to beat. But the actual story doesn't take that long to beat, but it's the stuff that you can do after the game that kind of gives you the more kind of thrill. And it's kind of like a huge open world, and a lot of stuff. There's lots other things that you can do even after the game ends. Probably one of the best video games I've ever played. I'm not even like gonna sugarcoat it. Like, I thought Last of Us 2 was probably gonna be game of the year until this came out. So I'm gonna start it off and talk about Ghost of Tsushima. Now, a lot of people keep saying like I thought it was Ghost of Tetsuma, but like the Japanese basically kind of with the T is silent, so it's like Ghost of Tsushima, kind of like like a tsunami. You know what I'm saying? So that's basically I kept pronouncing it incorrectly, but now it's Ghost of Tsushima. And Tsushima basically is a island off of the coast of Japan, a small island, and basically the movie, I mean, the game starts in, it's really like a movie, but the game has 3 different acts. And the first act is you're introduced to your main character, Jin Sakai, who is a lord. And if you don't know what a lord is basically kind of like a landowner, like in 13th century Japan. They basically own, like, their family, and their family own like vast parts of the land, so they were always called lords. So, but basically, the story centers around Jin Sakai and his uncle. So his uncle basically raises him, and the story basically starts off with the invasion of the Mongol army, which is a realistic and true today fact of the representation of the intro of this game. Is the invasion of the Mongols was true on the beach. And basically, the first act is they basically get clobbered, like, and they're all samurais, and all the samurais basically end up dying, and his uncle gets kidnapped. So, and he almost is left for dead until he is saved by someone, and they basically nurse him back to health. And so he spends most of the first act kind of getting a resistance together to kind of go free his uncle. And the Mongol leader Khan basically kidnaps his uncle and wants his uncle to submit and to basically come work for him, and let basically them kind of invade their land and take over. And the second act kind of deals with freeing his uncle. And the thing that I loved about the game, it dealt more with you got to see the elevation of him becoming the ghost. Now, the reason why I call it the ghost is because when Jin's uncle basically teaches him the way of the samurai. Now, the way of the samurai is like to be dealt with honor. So always, even with your enemy, you deal them with honor. You never stab them in the back. You always fight them face to face, eye to eye, like a man, like with true honor. And Jin starts dealing with things that aren't the way that he was raised. He starts dealing with tactics because the enemy isn't on, they aren't honorable, so why should he? So he starts becoming, basically doing tactics like sneaking in and killing enemies behind their back, poisoning them, like doing things that aren't as honorable as he was raised to do. But that's the kind of the beauty of the game, evolution of him becoming this honorable samurai. And then he kind of starts becoming the ghost, which is like this kind of horrific, scary person. But in retrospect, you kind of get why he's becoming this person, because the enemy isn't honorable. They aren't giving any slack. They're murdering, they're killing basically everyone on his island and where he's from. So if they're doing this, going about this way, why should I be honorable and fight them the way that that you did your enemy before them? Second act, you kind of go to free your uncle with your allies, and you kind of start becoming darker. Once you free your uncle, and your uncle kind of has that, he goes, I've been hearing the things that you've been doing, just stop, and we're going to go back to the way of the samurai. And then you get to the third act, where you go to basically kill the Khan, which is the kind of Mongol leader. And you kind of go all in depth with the ghost, and you kind of throw out the way of the samurais, which where your uncle was brought and raised you up to, and like all that goes out the window because defeating this enemy becomes precedent. No matter what you have to do, he wants to accomplish his goal and killing the enemy, and he doesn't care about the way of the samurai with his uncle. So even though his uncle kind of displeases him and kind of almost bans him from the family, he still, in order to accomplish his goal by killing the army and freeing this island of this Mongol army, he doesn't care what he has to do. And that's beautiful story. Like I have it all written down, like the things I want to talk about. It's so many things that like in this game that just kind of just got me, and I was like, wow, like I didn't expect this game to be this dang good. Like I didn't. Now if I could like for my true gamers that really know video games, like I wrote 3 video games that this kind of emulates and they took from, if you ask me. There was a game that came out in the early, I want to say mid 2000s. I'm not sure exactly the date, but it was called LA Noire. LA Noire was basically like a cop detective video game where you kind of had to put together like clues of who killed this person, who killed that person. Oh, that like you found a splatter of blood, so you have to go investigate and see. You had elements of that game in here because there were parts in the game where you had to investigate and like, oh, someone killed them. Like, here are the tracks. Let me follow them. And I just thought like that was just so different, and I hadn't seen that since LA Noire. And if I could also mix it with Uncharted. Uncharted kind of was that vast kind of action adventurous game that was just over the top, but you loved it. Like the action, suspense, the colors, the beautiful elegance and the vibrance of the land was so beautiful. Kind of, like I said, Uncharted, and also kind of with the open world kind of gameplay as well. And kind of almost with another game is kind of comparing it to really Red Dead Redemption and Assassin's Creed. Like if those two had a baby mixed with LA Noire, this kind of will be a combination of those two. I love the open worldness of this game. You know, you don't have to only do the main missions. You can also do the side missions. And this was like kind of like one of the first games that I would actually do side missions, because most of the side missions that like for like say when I got like Assassin's Creed or stuff like that, I would never do the side missions, and I would lack like going up against a strong boss. But in this one, you kind of have to. They almost make you do the side missions because you want to get stronger, and like in order to, because you fight the first boss in like the very beginning of the game and you get whooped. Like I'm like no, not anymore. Like the game is that you didn't have to go the main story mode. You could go to all the different side missions and kind of and the dope part about the game is this, they have a face off. So anytime you can see it has a little icon. It goes standoff, and you would just see the person, and you would hold the sword, and they would have a draw, and whoever budge first. You kill him. So I just like that aspect. Or you can do that, or you could creep around and kind of kill them from the back and kind of become the ghost. And I loved how his legend becomes the ghost of Tsushima, because he's, like I said, he starts off this pure-hearted samurai, and then he becomes a kind of terroristic threat. Through even like people in this land fear the ghost. Like I hear he's like 10 feet tall and he has yellow teeth, and he's just like, I'm none of that. But but the way he moves and the way he fights, people say he's a ghost. And the thing that I love, that the first part was that you really start seeing this this change in him was one of the very first, kind of in the second act, when you're freeing your uncle. You fight a boss, a general, and you kill him. And afterwards, honorable thing to do is like once they throw down their swords, rest them or do whatever. He wanted to inflict fear in everyone, so he turns around and just chops the general's head off, and everyone gets scared. And that's another level that you go to, is just like the ghost mode. And basically for that, I think it's almost like maybe like 10-20 seconds, you can just kill anyone you want to, and everyone's fearful of you. They run on the ground, and then he just slashes and slashes. I was like, damn.
leaders! Look at your general! Run! This will be your fate! People of Yarikawa!
So anytime you kill like a general or something like that, you go to that mode automatically. And so I just love like that aspect of the game. And then you also have different fighting stances. You have a moon, a wind, a stone, and a water. Now this is kind of the thing I like about this is, so you have different type of enemies. You have people with shields. You have people with bow and arrows. You have brutes that have big axes. So each of the stands is built for each of those enemies. So anytime you see a guy with a shield, you can switch to the moon stand or the wind stand and kick it. Or you see a brute, there's a different stance for each person that you're fighting. So you have to kind of get used to it and switch back and forth, and also you have, like I said, you have darts that you can throw. You have kunais, sticky bombs, power bombs, or powdered bombs that people explode, heavy arrows, detonating arrows. I just love the dope thing they add about it is the mythic. They have a mythic legendary skills, and those are like 4 skills that you can get throughout the game. Some you can get before or the ending of the game, depending on how your gameplay is. But one is like a slash and a fire. I think it's called the Heavenly Sword or the Heavenly Slice, and you just slice someone real quick. And it's just, I love the mythic tales, and that's a dope thing about you always have to sit in front of a guy and he tells you the story of these mythic tales, and the way they go about telling the stories, like they do it in the ancient like Chinese like drawings, and they like this, someone's really telling you the story, and I just love like that aspect of it. And to me, this had like a very good ending. I love the ending. Like it was it's a spoiler, so this game's been out, but the end, after you kill the Mongol captain, people are so fearful of you, and that you've kind of disgraced the way of the samurai, that your uncle basically has to the shogun basically gives your uncle an opportunity to correct your wrongs. So your uncle has to kill you. And at the end, you can either, that's what I like about the game, you can either decide to kill your uncle after you beat him, or let him live. I killed him personally, but even I seen the entrance, if you don't kill him, he says you'll be hunted, and he goes, I know. But I loved that aspect of the game, how they give you those choices, like to kill your uncle or let him go. Either way, you would never see him again. And the thing I loved about it is also they had like a couple small details that a lot of people wouldn't notice. Like let's say you're walking in a field of flowers, and he would just touch the flowers. And also sometimes a lot of people didn't realize is like, as you become more of a darker person, like anytime you kind of invade these, throughout the game, they have different Mongol camps that you have to invade and take over and kill all the people. And each time you're going to do something dark, instead of like facing everyone, like going there and facing everyone, like I said, they give you the option if you want to face them or creep around. I kind of like creeping around behind their back. The more times you do that, the lightning storms hit, and they do that because you're about to do something dark and unway of the samurai, if you will. So you hear like a lightning, boom, 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 like anytime you're gonna do something dark. And I was wondering, like, damn, like it's been lightning a lot. And I do that's because anytime you do something ominous or unway of the samurai, that's why the lightning always strikes loud. So I was like, oh, it's just like small little details in the game that you love. And I loved all the side missions, there's just so many different characters that you can talk about in this game, a slew of them. That can be its own review in its own regard. But I just love, like, to me, this was like hands down one of the best games that I've ever played. It's definitely game of the year. Like I said, I thought I was gonna give it to Last of Us 2 because I was such a huge fan of that game and that franchise. But to me, this is just hands down like one of the pinnacles of PlayStation. Like it's one of the best games of the PS4 generation. So even though we're going to PS5, I would definitely put this like on top of the Mount Rushmore of PS4 games, if not one of the greatest PS4 games or PlayStation games of all time. Hope I didn't bore you guys too much with that. Like I said, if you guys are into video game, movies, exclusive sneakers. Think about giving me a subscribe. If you like what you saw, please give me a like. Now, like I said, if you have played this game, give me your comments. Let me know what you guys thought about this game. Am I tripping? Is it not one of the best games that you ever played? Would you put this in the top categories of one of the one of your all-time favorites? I personally would. I mean, it's not number one, but it's definitely has to be in my top 10. So drop those comments. Let me know what you guys thought about this game. Until next time, guys, Mr. Movie X is out. I'll holler at you guys later.